So, now that I've rehashed my thoughts on Animus magic and why the concept doesn't really work, I want to talk about some of the fun ideas you could use Animus magic for. I'm in a magic theory headspace right now because I'm reading Christopher Paolini's new book Murtagh, and besides being a fabulous book and driving me to tears and insanity by turns, it spends a lot of time going over the finer points of magic, wondering how certain spells might work, and while Animus magic is certainly a very different system of magic than Paolini's, which is a word-based spell system, it kind of puts me in the mood to talk about it. Animus magic is such an open book, too. It just leaves a lot of freedom for creativity in how you apply it. I'm sure we've all kind of fantasized about what we'd use Animus magic for if we had it. For a moment, I'll ignore the really huge ideas everyone probably defaults to, like world peace and stuff. I'm going to get into that in a minute, and boy does it get convoluted. But for now, let's think about the smaller stuff. I was actually thinking about this just this morning while I was walking. I like to walk when the weather's nice because my dogs like the chance to run around and I like the exercise. And I always walk by this one fence that's so old it's like rotting into the ground. And if I had Animus magic, that's one thing I would do. I'd fix that guy's fence for him so it's nice and clean again and my dogs stop running into his property. I feel like most of what I would want to do with Animus magic would be in the vein of pretty trivial day-to-day stuff. But it'd be cool to make some neat talismans too. Here's one thing I know I'd make, and you'll laugh, but I think about this all the time because I spend a truly impressive amount of my time standing around with a hose filling water troughs for animals. I would enchant a canteen or something to pour water endlessly when I uncapped it. Really fast water, so I could water animals faster. I feel like everybody's laughing at that idea, but it would make my life so much easier. And that's something I've always, imagined, I guess, when I'm standing around wishing the hose went about 20 times faster. I'd also use magic to make healthy food taste good, because that is a missed opportunity. I mean, Animus magic kind of leaves everything open for you. You can pretty much do whatever you want with it. But, and I kind of touched on this with my What If Sunny Was an Animus video, just because you have the ability to make something like that happen doesn't mean it'll work. In that what if, I had Sunny basically enchant Pyria not to feel negative emotions, but instead of that spell magically fixing all the world's problems or something, it put everyone into a permanent dreamless sleep. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is you can cast a spell, but how do you structure it so it actually accomplishes what you want in the way you want? Huge overarching spells, like the one Sunny tried to cast in that video, wouldn't work, I don't think. Unless you're working with a more intuitive magic source, something that could figure out the intent behind your words, I think it would have some unintended consequences. I won't even get into the morality of it. Is it right to cast a spell that hugely alters the lives of so many people? What about their free will and dignity? Is it right to impose your will on people even if you think you know what's best? As much as I think a morality discussion on the ethics of that could be interesting, it's a little high level for the purpose of this video, so we'll focus on the mechanics of it instead. If you wanted to cast an Animus spell to end the war, or to bring peace to the tribes, I think you'd have to structure it very carefully. Personally, I would probably write down the spell and work it out on paper, then cast a spell to use the written version, or something like that. That's not something you can just get right off the bat verbally. But I would use pages and pages of qualifying details. Like in the case of an End the War spell, you'd have to clarify a lot of stuff. End the war only works if you first do things like pick a sanguine queen, cause the tribes to stop fighting, return everyone to their kingdoms. But how deep do you go? Do you erase the animosity born of 20 war-torn years? Do you replace queens like Scarlet? Do you cure the injuries and wounds, emotional and physical, caused by the war? Do you replace the homes, the crops, the land destroyed? Where does it stop? And again, is it right to reach so deeply into the lives of others, altering things as you see fit without their input? You can't just say, stop the war. How does that even work? Do the tribes still hate each other, only they physically can't fight? Or they're confined to their territories? Do these emotions fester for another century? Okay, say you end the war and pick a queen and enchant everyone to forgive each other, or do something like the empathy spell Keebly used in Book 10. Do you enchant dragons to forgive everything? Are they forgiving the fight with their enemies at large? Or do they forgive more personal hurts, like Sora's hatred of Icicle, who helped kill her sister? How can you force someone to forgive a hurt so personal and painful? Okay, I said I didn't want to make this a moral discussion, but thinking about these big spells really always brings it back to morals. Even something like enchant Pyria so nobody is hungry. You have to word that so carefully. Is everyone going to lose their ability to feel hunger? Would they still need to eat, or would they not notice they needed sustenance until they toppled over? Would they gain the ability to eat anything so they don't starve? I think with that spell you'd actually want to word it more like enchant Pyria so there was always plentiful game and a good harvest or something similar, and even that would probably need supporting spells just to make sure there's no unintended consequences. If a lot of this is going over your head, I'm sorry. I just think this is really interesting, because with these huge overarching spell concepts, there are so many little features that need attention. Of course, we do have some examples of larger spells in the books themselves. Albatross and the Summer Palace is a good one. He took that slow, spending a decade observing the process and making corrections. I think that's a great way to handle a massive spell like that, slowly, with plenty of time to notice problems and address them. Or, conversely, Keebly's Empathy spell or Deathbringer's Icewing Sickness spell. Both of those are a little bit of a smaller scale, and they affect narrower areas, not some overarching concept. Darkstalker said specifically make every Icewing sick, and Keebly's spell was specific too, but there wasn't much room for error with those two. Okay, I guess this is kind of turning into a magic morals video, just for a minute, because even with those smaller spells, like what I was saying earlier, where do you stop? I could make an endless water source to water animals, but couldn't I just enchant their buckets to never empty? Couldn't I enchant the animals not to need water? I feel like with magic it's a never-ending list of shortcuts. Whether you're enchanting a war to end or fixing a little problem in your day-to-day life, it feels like cheating in a way. Work and struggle aren't fun, but there's something about the process that's very important to humanity. Work gives us dignity, a sense of accomplishment, a chance to better ourselves and others. If you enchant things to happen, you lose the experience of making them happen. It's like what I touched on in my AI art video the other week. Sure, you could take fake art from an AI bot and it might look really good, but you have lost the experience of making that art. Obviously, there are still things that might be better spelled away, like disease, or war, or a crack in your windshield, but magic isn't an answer for everything in life. It's a shortcut. You can use it for some cool things like fun talismans or neat weather spells or even curing sickness or healing injuries or something, but it shouldn't be a crutch. Okay, I'll cut the morality discussion there. Part of why that applies, by the way, is because, like I've said, Animus Magic is a one-stop shopping magic system. It's not like most magic systems where you have to be choosy about your spells due to your own knowledge or abilities or whatever. You can literally do anything with the snap of your fingers, which introduces a lot of complicated questions to the scene. What do y'all think? If you had Animus Magic, what would you use it for, and how would you structure your spells? Do you think it's morally right to cast a spell that might bring about a better collective good, even if it takes away personal choices or emotions? If y'all like this video, be sure to check out my recent Animus Magic video where I break down why I think it's a flawed system. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe so you won't miss any new content. Thanks for watching, and have a blessed week.